everyone to sit down to start with our next session. Everyone, can I have your attention, please? I would request everyone to sit down so that we can start our session on time, and also whosoever is eating their lunches probably can move towards the left side of the hall. Okay, so now let's quickly start our session, the country session, Australian space. With India and Australia being the comprehensive strategic partners, join us for an exclusive session with top officials and experts from both nations to enhance and strengthen this crucial alliance. So as a keynote speaker, we have Ms. Nashid Chowdhury, Investment and Trade Commissioner, India Gulf, Government of Western Australia. Ma'am, please can we have you on the podium, please? And can you also have a round of applause?
And namaskar. It's hard to be sometimes after a lunchtime session, but I hope I keep everyone awake through this. But we have an incredibly exciting panel and an incredible discussion, I think, really about how the Australia-India relationship has come a very, very long way. As we look to the stars, it's clear the future of the space industry and space exploration hinges on international collaboration. With the geographic proximity of the Indo-Pacific region and long-standing diplomatic, economic and cultural ties, Australia and India possess significant untapped potential as space partners. While India is a global leader and exponentially growing its global leadership in the space ecosystem, Australia also possesses unique strengths in the space domain. Both nations are well placed to benefit through greater collaboration as the new space economy continues to grow. Today, Australia and India's partnership is stronger than ever before. Space collaboration presents a unique opportunity to strengthen our relationship while also delivering outcomes in the space and Earth that will benefit the Indo-Pacific region more broadly. The Western Australian government is privileged to be supporting SIA-INDIA on this amazing venture that they've taken. It's 3 years now in a row that SIA-INDIA has been running this conference, and I think, Lisa, last year there was an announcement between SIA Australia and SIA-INDIA on collaboration. So this is great to see a really large Australian delegation that's coming this year as well, in strong ties with India, which is our seventh largest Australian partner into the space. The themes of the Congress, Bridging Boundaries Through Space Innovation, resonate strongly with the priorities of the Western Australian government. Leveraging Western Australia's world-leading remote operation capabilities delivered through our resources sector, the Western Australian government is committed to developing the state's capacity to design, manufacture, operate space and cross-sectoral technologies, and identifying both as a priority area for development under our economic development framework, Diversify WA. India's world-leading space sector is the fastest growing in the world, propelled by historic feats like ISRO's Chandrayaan-3 lander completing the first successful landing on the lunar South Pole last year. The Australian space industry has experienced significant growth and numerous key achievements since the establishment of the Australian Space Agency in 2018, and it's almost worth around $5 billion per year and continues to grow. There's geographic advantages for space activity, unique competitive advantages to offer around space ground infrastructure, Earth observation, communication technologies and services, space science and robotics and automation. Australia has ideal locations for launch into all orbits, a strong growing research base in space-related research and development, and there's considerable engagement into India, a growing space infrastructure including new spaceports and return locations. In terms of the Western Australia narrative, we are, as you can see, 1/3 of the nation, and I sort of talked about that earlier today. But it also means, as India, it's almost like all of India's geography into one state. We're about a $410 billion economy, which is as large as Tamil Nadu, India's second largest state economy. So, and that is actually based on the fact that we have very strong natural abundances. Wind, we've got the largest number of solar panels that are being implemented in the world, and then we've got a large gas line corridor, and this is a particularly significant piece of how our economy has grown, which is about being home to 53% of the world's lithium reserves and 50 different critical minerals and rare earths. And you can see the applications and complementarity with India in terms of the application of the critical materials, which India is very well placed to develop as well. But our state also recognises that we need to diversify, and that's the whole purpose of this diversification activity, and lending to the fact that space is something that is not old for us. It's actually, not new for us. It's actually something quite old. We have been working in the space sector for over 60 years. And in terms of our geographic location, dry environmental conditions, radio quiet zones and clear skies, we have an attractive setting for major space projects since the late 1950s. Ground stations in Western Australia played a key role in major international space projects, including NASA's Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo missions from 1961 to 1975. In recent times, Western Australia's ground stations helped track India's historical south pole of the moon, landing on the south pole of the moon in 2023, with supporting the upcoming Gaganyaan human space flight mission. Western Australia's space sector has grown in recent years, where there's a commitment of about $1 billion invested in Western Australia's space infrastructure and capabilities since 2018. Today, Western Australia, we're home to more than 130 Australian and international organisations operating space-related services and host significant space infrastructure for both civil and defence applications. Significant areas of Western Australia's space capability include ground-based satellite and deep space communications, space situational awareness, data processing analysis, optical communications, and notably world-leading remote operations, automation and robotics capabilities developed through our resources sector. And the sophistication of our mining sector has really helped us, transform into the space sector as well, and has a huge reliance on our space sector. We're also home to a very vibrant education, R&D and innovation ecosystem with 5 universities and various research institutions with established expertise in the space industry and related fields. In February 2022, on a visit to Perth, Colonel Melroy, Deputy Administrator of NASA, noted the world-leading robotic and remote operation capabilities and automation and extraction she found in Western Australia. These technologies are essential for space exploration, and Colonel Melroy recognised Western Australia's potential to support NASA Artemis missions to establish a permanent base camp on the moon and facilitate human missions to Mars. WA has a growing capacity to contribute to India's commercial satellite industry and ISRO's human spaceflight program, providing tracking communication services as well as ideal locations for returns. Our advantageous position in the Indo-Pacific region presents a significant opportunity for Australian Indian companies to provide space-based services at a global scale, specifically in the areas of space mission operations, Earth observations, and communications. Some of our key space projects also include, and there's so much celebration around space that we've had most recently, but more significantly, Fugro's Space AI Automation Robotics Control Complex, SPARC, provided support for the first commercial lunar lander, Intuitive Machines Odysseus, which has now successfully landed on the moon this March. The Perth-headquartered AROSE Consortium, which is only one of the 2 countdown listed in the Trailblazer program by the Australian Space Agency to build, test and operate a Foundation Services rover, which will travel to the moon with NASA in 2026. A number of critical space ground infrastructure facilities have been established, including LEO Labs, Western Australia Space Radar, and ESA's second deep space tracking station at their new Norsha site. Construction has begun in WA's Midwest region on the SKA Low Radio Telescope, 1/2 of the square kilometre array, the world's largest radio telescope. It's quite spectacular. Since 2020, the Western Australian government has committed more than $40 million to support space and space-related projects. Key space investments include the establishment of the Australian Remote Operations for Space and Earth, AROSE, as I just mentioned before, establishment of the Australian Space Data Analysis Facility, ASDAF, support for Curtin University's BINAR Cube Space program, who launched Western Australia's first satellite in 2022, and that was quite a moment with our premier being there. The establishment of the Space Automation and AI Robotics Control Complex, SPARC. The continued expansion of the space ground infrastructure in WA and our contributions to globally significant space missions projects highlights Western Australia's proactive contribution across the country in growing Australia's space sector. What does that mean for WA and India? And that has been definitely a fair bit of momentum and work that we've been undertaking, and with the support of our friends in India and the ecosystem in Western Australia, it's grown very much since post-COVID. A number of our West Australian organisations are already collaborating in the India space domain. Space infrastructure in Western Australia is playing a role supporting ISRO's Gaganyaan missions, including Swedish Space Corporation's WA Space Centre and a temporary ISRO ground station in Cocos Keeling Islands. Western Australia may also potentially play a further role in ISRO's missions as a potential backup point for safe return of the Gaganyaan astronauts. LatConnect 60, we've got Venkat here, are a Perth-headquartered Earth observation data and analytics startup who provide cost-effective high-resolution satellite imagery and medium-resolution hyperspectral imagery along with data analytics to provide high-quality defensible data insights for a wide range of applications. Most notably, more than 100,000 rice farmers in Malaysia are receiving individual personalized satellite data insights to help them manage their crops using AG60 mobile apps, which LatConnect developed for Burnus, the Malaysian Rice Board, which could very easily translate into a lot of the conversations we're currently having in India. LatConnect 60, and this is so exciting, we're going to talk about it at the next session as well, has established a partnership with Skyroot Aerospace, who will launch their upcoming SWIRSAT Path Mission Finder from India, along with other planned launches in LatConnect 60 satellite constellation map. And if you can see the image, Venkat had come on a mission that was led by our Minister for Innovation, Minister Stephen Dawson's mission, and met with Skyroot. We've got Sireesh here, and a year later, they've now signed and been a recipient of the grant. So it's a very stellar moment for us. QL Space are an Earth observation data company with customers across multiple industries who bring together high-resolution satellite imagery, smart centers, machine learning, AI, and edge computing to provide us descriptive, diagnostic, and predictive analytics to a range of industry sectors. They've now expanded a base into India out of Bangalore and have had multiple agreements with a number of Indian partners. QL Space also have several long-standing partnerships with Indian space companies, including Skyroot, Satsure, Vesa Labs, to develop downstream solutions for applications like agriculture, mining, insurance, and disaster management. And they've formed a partnership with Digital University Kerala to further develop their downstream solutions. Another company, Space Angel, are a Western Australian space company progressing an establishment of a low-green commercial spaceport in Eucla on Western Australia's southern coast. Space Angel also have significant capabilities on the Internet of Things technologies. I just want to point out, this was actually the first MOU between Australia and India signed in the space sector, which was in 2022 when our Premier led a 120-member delegation to India, and this was one of those monumental signings, but the first of its kind. The TerraNet, and also another shameless plug-in, Space Angel is also listed on our WA Investments platform, which is a deal-ready opportunity for investors who are interested in investing into this project. The TerraNet Optical Communications Network, developed by the University of WA and International Centre for Radio Astronomy Research, ICRAR, is an optical laser communications network. This network features the first mobile optical ground station. The 3-node network will support multiple international space missions between low orbit and the moon, using both proven conventional optical communication and standards, as well as more advanced optical technologies. These partnerships between leading WA and Indian space organizations are testament to our mutual interests and compatible strength in technology and space domain, offering ample opportunities for more collaboration. In summary, both India and Australia are positioned at the forefront of space innovation, and the potential of our partnership of the space domain is immense. In particular, we also want to highlight that we have just earlier today launched the expression of interest for for you to, as an Indian company, come and visit us at IPSEC. There is a Space Week, the first of its kind in Western Australia, that's going to be run in the last week of November, coinciding with the first Border Gavaskar series. We encourage you to put in an application and visit us in Perth during that time. The synergies between our countries underpinning our nation's strong economic cultural connections are shared by the commitment to explore and look at technological development and set a solid foundation for achieving significant milestones in the space economy. With that, thank you for your attention and enthusiasm. Together, Australia and India can build our nation's long-standing relationship and complementary capabilities to achieve remarkable success in the space domain. Let's embark on this journey together. I'm incredibly excited that we've had a chance to tell you a bit about some of the amazing things that are going on in Western Australia, but how that is very, very complementary to what India is growing as their commercial sector. In the meanwhile, I invite you all to visit WA and experience firsthand the space capabilities, which are like no other. Thank you so much.
Now I would like to call our moderator, Ms. Lisa Vitaris, who's Director, IAC 2025 Sydney, and we would like her to present with her PPT. Just a moment. Yeah. And she will also...
Helps if you turn the microphone on. Thank you so much, and many thanks, Nashid, for your keynote. I'd just like to re-emphasize what Nashid said at the start. I thought it really stood out as a sentence. India and Australia have significant untapped potential as space partners. That's very exciting for both of our countries. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lisa Vitaris. I am Director of IAC 2025 in Sydney at the Space Industry Association of Australia. I'd like to take just 1 or 2 minutes to let you know a little bit about IAC 2025, given it's a large focus for us in the Australian space industry at the moment. It represents a catalyst opportunity for us to fast-track the development of our space industry and the partnerships that we have. There's also significant interest for India. So I'd like to share that, and we have some very brief news about a scheme between the Australian and the Indian governments that has been announced. So I'd like to make those 2 announcements, and then I will invite the panelists up. And we will finish at 3:30 because I understand we're short on time. So I'm delighted to be here at the India Space Congress, so thank you so much for the invitation. We are very happy to have an MOU that we've signed with SIA-INDIA, and that was signed at DEFSAT earlier this year by our director on the board, Terry Van Haren, and that was deliberately to emphasise the relations that we have between the Australian and the Indian space industries. So I'd like to start by whipping through this presentation very quickly about IAC, but we've had a journey with IAC, the International Astronautical Congress in Australia, and it runs back as far as 98, and then we last had it in 2017 in Adelaide. It's only been in the Southern Hemisphere 5 times out of the 75 times that it's happened so far. So it's largely a European-focused event. We're going to change that, and we're going to make sure that the focus is on the Indo-Pacific region, and that includes India as a very special focus. You may notice here that we have the ISRO logo on here, and this is a vote of thanks because all of these companies and government associations and academia actually supported us to host IAC 2025 way back in 2022 in Paris. So we thank ISRO and the Indian government for their support. I'm just going to run through a few slides because I know we're short on time. The theme for our event is Sustainable Space, Resilient Earth. So we're looking at space-based application for Earth, sustainable space activities, and sustaining life off Earth. In 2017, we announced the establishment of our Australian Space Agency. So with each IAC comes a very significant announcement. How exciting would it be if Australia and India could make some very significant announcement for 2025? No pressure, but that could be a very exciting option. As I said, we plan to focus on the Indo-Pacific region. India is an extremely important market for us. We want to make sure that we are inviting as many Indian officials and companies and academics as possible to attend this event. It is very important for Europe and the US as a market as well, and as a partner, as was said by InSpace. So we want to make sure that we're able to bring the best of India to the world at IAC and showcase our entire region together and the partnerships that we have. And we're also focusing on space adjacent industry to bring a lot of commerciality into it. There'll be a festival of space too, so it'll be lots of fun. So bring your family and kids. That's it. I'm going to leave that there, but I will just briefly touch on the MATE scheme, which is also very exciting. So this is a call from the Australian space industry, supported by the Space Industry Association of Australia and SIA-INDIA, to Indian professionals 30 years or under who have degrees in space adjacent sectors. As you can see there, there's a QR code if you want more information, but we're welcoming Indian young professionals to come to Australia for the mutual beneficiary of both of our space industries. So I think that's really exciting. There are places for about 3,000 professionals, and we really look forward to welcoming them to Australian soil. Applications open later this year, so there'll be more information on our social media channels soon. So with that, we look forward to welcoming you to Sydney, Australia next year, 29th of September to the 3rd of October, and I will invite our panel to the stage. So we are very fortunate to have a very esteemed panel, and I'd like to welcome you to Air Commodore Retired Terry Van Haren, President of APAC and Managing Director at Leo Labs. Thank you, Terry. Mr. Sireesh Pallikonda, Director in Business Development, Skyroot. And Professor Abhilash Chandra, Founder and Managing Director of SABRN Australia. And I might need to get some help with microphones for the panelists, please. Thank you. So what I'd like to start with is, and given that we're a little bit short on time, we might skip some of the bios. Hopefully you can read them online and we'll share them later. But the first question that I'd like to ask each of you is, what are the areas of collaboration that are possible between India and Australia? And I'll come join you.
Okay, thanks, Lisa. And great to be back in India. And thanks to SIA-INDIA for putting on its 3rd Space Congress. And it seems to get bigger every year with a bigger international audience. So very proud to be back. You know, it's really important to understand that Australia and India are a very common heritage from our Commonwealth days, a long partnership in different ventures, such as, the thing I didn't realise as an Australian is that the Indian Army, the British Indian Army at that time, was at Gallipoli with us in 1915. So that's a long time, 110 years next year. And then, of course, we went into cricket, and unfortunately we lost on Monday, but so be it. Good hockey relationship. But I think space is an area, again, where we can develop a real strategic partnership for the long term. Many speakers have talked about our natural affiliation and how we can complement each other in design. Now, where I'm coming from is in terms of space surveillance and space domain awareness. This is where I look to India, and I know that you want to improve your SSA and your space domain awareness. And as a company in Australia who've already built a radar, which you saw earlier at the Western Australian Space Radar, we certainly want to work a collaborative venture here to bring you into our network and, in fact, make you an important part of that network. Australia is also in a unique situation here because we've got all these other partnerships as well. You know, one of our most important ones is with the United States. And I think it's actually my responsibility, or Australian responsibility in some respect, to make sure in a commercial space area, we actually extend those partnerships across the Quad. So Japan, Australia, United States and India is a very important part of that Quad. don't expect the Americans, and I'm not sure if there's any in the room, to take this large journey regularly out to India to try and develop those partnerships. But expect Australians to step up and to make that effort and to try and make sure we actually have robust, multi-dimensional type partnerships being developed here in this region. And that's for everyone's benefit. So that's really our perspective from Leo Labs.
Thanks, Terry. Namaskar, everyone. Thanks, Lisa, for the introductions earlier on, and thank you, SIA-INDIA, for having us here. I concur with a lot of what Terry had said. The opportunities between both, excuse me, between both Australia and India within space is across many different areas. My particular interest is in health. I'm a surgeon by profession. I'm also in the Australian Army. This is my 24th year. And I can see many similarities in the way we provide both combat health support as well as global health support between Australia and India using space-based technologies from a downstream perspective within terrestrial environments, and also 10 years down the future in extraterrestrial environments. So the technologies we develop right now using satellite-based systems will be useful right now on Earth, but also in the future when lunar surface and Mars surface colonies are established. I think the technologies that both Australia and India can collaborate on will be extremely useful.
Good afternoon, everyone. And well, I made few points on that. And what I believe is it mainly depends upon 3 P's. And the 3 P's are priority, politics, and price. So yeah, so it's very important, like what is the priority that the countries are having. And when we look into the Australia and India, we clearly have set space as a priority with the decadal plan of having 12 billion by 2030, and also India going for 44 billion by 2033 is clearly defines like what is the economic goals that we have set ahead of us. And now and on the other side of it, if we look into the political scenario, so we hold quite strong relations, and you know, being a part of Quad, okay, Australia, US, and Japan, we need to collaborate on these things. And especially there need to be an initiatives, okay, which shall encourage more and more private participation into this main program if we have to really achieve the priorities what we have set for. And the International Space Initiative by the Australian Space Agency clearly defines that, okay, with that, like there has been like lot of collaborations which have taken place. Not necessarily that all of them would have won, but the collaborations have been set in place because 75 applications being submitted to the government. That means there is other 75 companies back in India where they have some collaborations, and that work is going on. And to continue this, okay, so this program should not end here, and there need to be a repetitiveness of this particular thing, and similar initiatives shall be taken from India as well. And it's not just between India and Australia, we need to enhance this across the other countries as well.
Thank you. And I would love to know what each of you believe could supercharge collaboration between the Indian and Australian space industries. So what would you recommend? Would it be support from various organizations or other? What could really help drive that collaboration even further and even faster than ever before?
The policy by the respective countries that sets a direction, okay, that's the first step, like what we would like to see. And also the more participation of the private industry which has to happen, and that need not necessarily for the short term, but indeed it has to be long term goals, okay. Might be the Trailblazer program what Australia has taken up with Artemis. So similar programs with India, if we start looking towards the lunar or the deep space missions, okay, where we can contribute more, and also there will be larger involvement into the private industry. when the government comes forward, that is when it would become quite easy for the private industries to raise the finances, and also that gives a certain confidence for the investors to come forward and invest into it. Yeah.
I concur with that as well. I think having better government and private industry collaborations will certainly help. More exposure to events such as this and such as IAC 2025. I think the timing of the cricket and the conference is genius. 2022 was when you guys did the collaboration. We actually did collaboration at the same time with DCube AI and SABRN. And in fact, we are collaborating at the moment with Arman Machinery and Engineering. They're going to be building the first Indian life pod prototypes that we are hoping to trial with Indian Defence Forces as well as the civilian aspect. So, and we're also working with Tarded Technologies, which is based in Bengaluru, with regards to unmanned surface vehicle systems for extraction of casualties. So,
look, I agree with both of what the gentleman just said, especially at the policy and regulatory level. That's very important. But I think we're on firm ground there with things like the ISI and these initiatives that are coming out of our governments. I'll just put my Director of Space Industry Association of Australia hat on, and we recognise that there's an important relationship to be built between the associations, ourselves and SIA-INDIA, and we're also talking about making sure that goes in a multi-dimensional way into America and into Japan and other Asia-Pacific type nations, because we should be then able to facilitate the development of relationships and partnerships. And I think if the regulation's right, the opportunities are there, and you can actually make people connect with each other and see that those opportunities through associations and other sort of intermediaries, then we're in a good place, and then things can happen. That's a two-way street, of course, and again, I commend SIA-INDIA for reaching out to us and making these invitations that we're using at the moment. But I think it's going to be multi-level, Lisa. So I'd say that we all have a role in developing this strategic relationship.
Thank you. And so you've mentioned a lot about government, and obviously with your other hat on, Terry, mentioning the Space Industry Association of Australia as director. What I'd like to delve a little bit more into what the responsibility is and what the role is in your eyes, in each of your eyes, for non-governmental associations and not-for-profits such as SIA-INDIA or such as the Space Industry Association of Australia. What would you like to see from these membership bodies who represent either the Indian space industry or the Australian space industry? What more could they be doing? What would you like to see from them?
I was just having a thought about my wife's conversation with the Indian air attache's wife that was where I was in Washington together, and they were talking to each other, from Australia, and I won't mention her name because the Air Vice Marshal still serving, but she was telling my wife that she was on a trip to organise a marriage for her son who couldn't organise, a relationship. So I mention that because the Indian people understand that there is a role to be played by associations and parts of this organisation to make those partnerships happen. So we've talked about this. We signed an MOU in, I think, February it was, but actually we need to do the work now. We need to start mapping for Australia what our businesses are doing, what our opportunities look like, making that information available to India, then working through SIA-INDIA to do the same, and then do the hard thing, which is bringing people together and actually getting them to talk. I commend the Australian government to make this ISI mission focused, because as soon as you have a mission and you try and achieve an outcome, you force the partnership. So that's what we'd like to see, in terms of continual opportunities. But yeah, the hard work starts, after you set the policy, after you set the relationship up, because someone has to step in and actually do the work and build those bridges.
I think that the role for NGOs is critical. Both Australia and India have the tyranny of distance from the perspective of healthcare. Now, over the last 24 hours, I've actually been at Rishikesh in Uttarakhand. And yesterday there was a small amount of rain and there was some landslides and there was a truck rollover. Now, luckily there wasn't any major trauma, but if there was, almost certainly the extrication of that casualty to a health capability that would be able to save that person's life, that would be huge in terms of the distances that, not the distances as such, but the accessibility to healthcare. And I think healthcare is every person's right, and it should be available, and it should be affordable, and it should be scalable. So both countries need that capability. Now, the other thing I did yesterday was I attended a webinar about neurosurgery in the combat zone. And what's happening at the moment is with patients with severe traumatic brain injury in Ukraine or other combat areas, they're doing immediate decompressive surgery. So within 3 hours, they're able to save the life of somebody who's had a bullet go through their brain and save them 95% of the time. We just need access to these kind of capabilities. And both Australia and India don't have those kind of capabilities. And there's an opportunity for NGOs to step in partnership with government organizations to save the lives of people. I don't think we can place a value on life, and I think we can do things to make a difference.
So I will highlight it from the industry point of view. So both Australia and India, they have their unique advantages or the competitive advantages, and that can be complemented. Okay, may it be because of the geography or the we being a launch vehicle company, the kind of inclinations that what we want to launch from are quite available, and that could be achieved from Australia, and how we can use it as a country or as an industry to our advantage. Okay, and similarly the cost advantage of India and how that could be benefited to Australia. So there are definitely more than these advantages. There are so many, and how is it brought forward to all the industry? Okay, and that is where the role of NGOs or any association would clearly lie. And I see Austrade doing a great job indeed. They've been reaching out to the all industry, the ecosystem, and they are clearly highlighting the advantage of Australia in different geographies, and how that could be leveraged by an Indian company. And it has to happen something similarly back in Australia. That's where the real advantage or the benefits from the both countries could be enjoyed by both nations.
Thank you. And I might use moderator's prerogative just to mention a couple of things that the Space Industry Association of Australia and SIA-INDIA are planning on doing together later this year as well, which could be really helpful from a partnership perspective. BSX, Bengaluru Space Expo, is in September coming up, and we're working together, I should also say, with Austrade to determine how we can host an industry study tour from Australia with Australian companies who are interested in partnering with Indian companies. So we are looking to organise that in a joint relationship with SIA-INDIA, SIA, and it's very confusing having SIA-INDIA and SIA, similar acronyms, as well as Austrade. So we really look forward to starting the discussions here really as much as possible, continuing the discussions, I should say, following through on those discussions at BSX and with the industry study tour in September, and then equally we'll be here again at GLEX. There's another event in New Delhi in May next year, and then obviously following through those discussions to IEC in 2025, with many other events in between. It was remiss of me not to add the Indo Space and Earth Conference as well that was spoken about before. So plenty of opportunities there. I might just check with the audience to see if there are any questions that anyone would like to ask. Otherwise, I'll ask each of the speakers for some closing comments, and then we have Leo Brahmanis, who will give us some closing comments from Austrade. Are there any questions that anyone has on their mind? Yes, please. Can we get a microphone? Or do you need to take this microphone? Or you can shout. We can hear you.
I'm not wrong. So how
Can you repeat that? Sorry, it's hard to hear.
I think I'll try a little better. Last year in August, $1 billion space programs have been cancelled by Australian government. So was just trying to see what is the implication of those big programs being cancelled.
And you're absolutely right. That was the NSMEO program. I don't know if Terry, you want to speak to that?
Yeah,
Otherwise,
I'll speak to it from on behalf of the Industry Association. You're right. We changed governments in 22, and in 23 that program was cancelled due to budget reasons. So that was it's called the National Space Earth Observation Mission, and I think it would have been a catalyst in some respects to a number of innovations and enterprise in Australia. And I can tell you from SIA Australia's point of view, very disappointed, because that would have meant something to all of our industry base, not just those that made the satellite. Would have made a difference to me as well, because I would have been providing space traffic management, collision avoidance services for that program. And I think that was a little bit nearsighted, to be quite honest, from our government. And really it was something we didn't see coming, in terms of the industry, because we had one side of politics which was talking very positively about space. Unfortunately, they lost the election, and now we had a new side of politics who, went for cost saving before, basically continuing those types of programs. So we've lost some momentum in Australia, to be quite honest, in terms of that sort of outcome. And in reality, what we're doing now is we're going back to commercially led innovation, commercially led enterprise. We are certainly looking for opportunities outside of Australia as much as in Australia. And that's important for us to realise. So we've learned some lessons, I suppose, that you have to be competitive globally. That's so important. I mean, a national program will only get you so far. To actually scale, you need an international program. You need to be able to sell your products in every country that you possibly can. And we're starting to see some success out of some of our companies now that have taken that approach. And I always think it's great when we have I'll use one, Hero Robotics, the Americans who buy a lot of their product don't even know they're Australian. They don't sort of realise it, I don't think. I mean, if they did their homework and navigate down the system, okay, that stuff comes from Australia. And that's where you want to be. You want to be in that place where you have a global product, I think, and you can get to as many customers as possible. But yes, you're right. A huge disappointment for the industry in Australia. We certainly lost some momentum, and especially in Earth observation. But ISI guys might talk to it a little bit more. And I know LATConnect 60 are going to be in that, because they're making very innovative Earth observation multispectral capabilities that we would want to see scale as well. But of course, they've got to get into orbit, got to prove technologies, and then look for those opportunities. So I think we'll recover, but we lost momentum. That's the honest truth.
Thanks, Terry. And I might add to that, if I may. What I have been really pleased to see is each of the state and territory governments really lean in. And personally, what I've noticed is a lot of extra leaning in terms of budget into the space industry, when really there are lots of sectors that could benefit from the state and territory government's focus. And there has been a pleasing amount of focus from each of the states and territories. So we really commend them for leaning in, when at the federal level it has been a little bit more challenging. So thank you so much. And I'd echo what Terry said as well. I think the other exciting thing that we've noticed is just how resilient and robust and innovative our space sector in Australia really is, because without that government support, they're still thriving, they're still growing, they're on this incredible growth trajectory, which is just incredibly exciting, and it's just a fantastic time for the Australian space industry. Even without that support, defence spending remains strong, so that is there, that is supporting. There are fantastic grants like the ISI grants that Terry mentioned, and again, just echoing what Terry said, I think the really exciting thing for India is we do need to look outside of Australia. We do need these partnerships. They are important for sometimes for our survival, but otherwise for us to thrive. So we really welcome, and that's why we're here. And that's why we're representing our Australian space industry to say we do want these partnerships. They are important to us. We know that you have many benefits in India, as has been mentioned. We have a lot of benefits in Australia as well. We're incredibly innovative. We can do things really quickly. We're really ready to partner. So great question, has been a challenge, but hopefully we're making up for it in lots of other ways and moving beyond. And working together with the federal government as well to make sure that space is a priority and that space is fully understood in terms of its benefits more broadly, such as remote healthcare and remote access to communications, as has been mentioned. To Leo Brahmanis, who is the Commissioner, the Trade and Investment Commissioner at Austrade. And Leo is going to provide some closing commentary and remarks. So I'd just like to thank our panelists so much for your time and all of your information and suggestions. Over to you, Leo.
Is that on? There we are. Thank you very much, Lisa, and to the WA government for this terrific panel. And it was great to hear everybody's insights as well. I think to summarise my takeaways from this in the audience sitting there from an Austrade perspective, there were two comments that have stood out for me today. The first one was from Nashid in her speech, where she mentioned there's untapped potential with Australia and WA. And the second was where Mr. Deepak mentioned this morning about needing an audacious vision. And I think that we do need an audacious vision to see the relationship go from strength to strength from where it is now. But not necessarily too audacious, because there's already so much going on. I was really fortunate. I was here in Delhi during Chandrayaan-3's landing on the moon. And I'm sure you remember as children, you watch the space movies and everyone in the ground station starts cheering and hugging and crying because the mission's been a success. And I imagined everyone doing that in space and at ISRO here in India. And it was such an emotional moment for us. And then I started thinking, what about the people that got the first signals from this? What about the people all around the world? And it's then after some further research that I realised that those emotions happened in Perth, in WA, because it was the new Norica ground station that was one of the first, and another one in Canberra that actually got the first signals from this mission. And that is a real testament to Australia's technology and to where we are with space with India already. It's our optical and quantum communications. It's our cutting edge technologies. It's our data processing and our sensors and the geography we have with our clear skies. And what a metaphor that day was. What a metaphor that Australia got those signals, that we were there to monitor India, support India's mission, heed India's signal and heed India's call for partnership and for collaboration. And we are well set to do that, and WA has amazing assets to support that. It's no surprise that WA was the first state for an Australia-India MOU to be signed between Space Angel and Skyroot. It has over 100 Australian and international organisations operating. It has a ground-based satellite and deep space communications capability, of course, is raised. And it has amazing data analysis capability in WA as well, backed up by 5 universities and research institutions. So very strong Australian R&D behind that as well. For me, the highlight points were, first of all, about the opportunity. Cricket and space are two of my favourite things on the planet. And WA has put these together so beautifully with their delegate packages for the Indo-Pacific Space and Earth Conference in November. So I think that's an audacious vision. It's a little bit of an audacious combination, Nashid. I think it's a great combination and a great opportunity for Indian delegates to put forward their interests. We had Mr. Pallikonda speaking about regional collaboration and the policy support for growth and long-term goals. And what a testament to that is the Australian Department of Industry's International Space Investment Grant and the federal commitment to bilateral collaboration and funding with India. Professor Chandra spoke about government and industry collaboration, and that's exactly what the ISI grant is. And we'll be hearing about that on the next panel very shortly. And then finally, Air Commander Van Haren spoke about association-level relationships, SIA-INDIA, SIA-Australia, and sharing information and sharing collaboration and momentum together and keeping the conversation going for the best collaboration led by governments and led by industry as well. So WA is here to support, Austrade is here to support. We're really excited to take a very exciting untapped potential and to drive that with a vision which hopefully doesn't have to be too audacious because we're already there. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Leo. Please join me in thanking our panelists and Nashid and Leo for their speeches. Thank you so much.
Can I just request everybody, as a part of speaker, Ms. Nashid and Sir as well, to come on the stage and just receive a small token from SIA-INDIA as a memento and a goodie bag. Yeah. Can I have Sakshi also to present the same? And once Sakshi hands over, so maybe request for a picture as well with her. Right. Thank you so much. Please. Can we also have some representatives out here from the Australian community just to be part of the picture as well? Please, can I have them from the stage, please?